The feeling of the wind in our hair, the smell of the ocean, and the beating of the sun are all things that we don't take for granted as Florida residents. Even though it's been around for thousands of years, so few people understand the utility and enjoyment of sailing. There's something euphoric about the sunset, and the only thing between you and modernity is miles and miles of water. And while the dangerous nature of the ocean at night can be overwhelming, it's nothing but tranquil to be sitting on deck for your night watch, and there's no lights, no cell phones, just ocean. In Jack Kerouac's unpublished first novel, The Sea is My Brother, Wesley gives a description of the sunset at sea. He uses the leaving port as an escape to his current day problems, which I know I can relate to and a lot of my friends can relate to. He uses the quote, "He seemed at home and content now they were sailing," as though leaving the port meant the cessation of all his worries and heading out to sea a new era of peace and amity. Anyone who's been out to sea for a long amount of time can understand that there's nothing that can compare to it. Through the necessity of survival and transportation and leisure enjoyment, I argue why everyone should know how to sail and inform at the end how to get started. I will cover the utility of sailing as a survival and leisure technique. I use sailing as past and modern day transport and how it shaped the world, and a small lesson at the end to get you started. Whether it's for transportation for fun or because you're stuck on a deserted island, it's always useful to know how to sail and not use a motor if you're on the water. The benefits of sailing has over motoring is that motoring requires fuel. Now, most sailboats do have inboard or outboard motors attached to them, but if you run out of fuel, you always have your sail to back you up. And instead of being a sitting duck in the water, you have a way to move around just with Mother Nature. Now, if you run out of fuel and there's no wind that day, it's just going to be a very hot day out. But that's just unlucky. Everyone's first thought of sailing is that it's for snooty rich kids who take their father's yacht out for the weekend for an afternoon stroll on the ocean. But anyone that I've met will contest to that, because I've been sailing for 5 years, and the people that I've met are all older people that are trying to get something to do during retirement, younger people who do it as a racing sport, or younger people that want to just do it just to be able to relax. Now, we don't have the money most of the time to get these big yachts, so we sail 12 to 14 foot boats, which are just as fun, in my opinion, much faster, and a lot more physically demanding. Sailing isn't viewed as a physically demanding sport, but I promise you do it and it will be hurting for the first few days. As I'm sure you know, sailing ages all the way back to the Viking Age, whether it was naval warfare, transporting goods, or fishing, attacking whales, or getting food. Through the years, people have adopted sailing as more primary mode of transportation, and for a while it was the mode of transportation to be able to get spices or foods from one country to another, to be able to use your exports and actually get money as a country. And now I'm sure everyone knows that Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and he wouldn't have been able to do that without sailing. National Geographic took the liberty to compare naval ships during the 17th century and during right now, and I understand why sailing is aged out as a main mode of imports and exports, and why a lot of people don't use it to get from country to country now. But I still think it is a very, very good technique for either sailing around the world as an enjoyment technique, because I know multiple people have done that, as a sport to be able to get exercise, or if you're just trying to have fun for the weekend. Now, I have been sailing for 5 years now, and I still make mistakes, like everyone will, and so you're not going to be a good sailor overnight. There's just too much information. You have to learn about the ocean, the weather, and then the rules of the sea, and like rights of way, and the same as driving. It's going to be the exact same way, because there's two motorists on the water at the same time. What do you do? What's protocol? And then you have to learn about your vessel, and you have to actually know how your ship works and how to sail it, and how, if something goes wrong, how can you fix it? But the most important part, in my opinion, is the wind. I think that's obvious. Everything that I tell you from today was something I learned from the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary course, and where I got my license to sail and motor a vehicle on the water for my age at 17 is a very difficult task, but I hope I can teach you everything that I know so far. Now, I don't have all the time in the world, but I will teach you the most important part of sailing. It's rather complicated, but I'll explain it as best as I can. Your direction of sailing fully depends on the wind, and you can't sail directly into the wind because if you do, your sails aren't going to catch any wind and you're not going to have any speed. Maybe you'll sail backwards, but that's not what we're trying to do here. So with sailing, you have to take angles. It's all about angles. If the wind's coming directly at you and you want to go through the wind, you have to take it at an angle. So maybe head a little bit to the left of it, and then if something's in your way, you turn through the wind and go a little bit to the right of it, and you're going to be doing that a lot. That act of going through the wind is called tacking, and you're going to be doing it a lot. There's 4 main points of sail. There's close haul, reach, broad reach, and run. Close haul, probably the point of sail you're going to be on the most. You're almost pointed directly into the wind, and if you haven't been able to tell, you can't go all the way, but if you're pointed close to it, you're still going to be able to go pretty fast. Then reach, you're going to be perfectly perpendicular to the wind. You're going to pull your sails in a little bit. That's the fastest point of sail. And then run and broad reach are going to be your slower modes of sailing, but you're going to be pointing away from the wind. Now that you know all the things about sailing for the wind, I hope you want to look into it. I've given you why you should sail. I've given you why we used to sail, and I've given you how to sail with the goal of teaching you the wonders of the ocean. Sailing has a lot of uses, and it's something that everyone should learn how to do and something they should have in their arsenal. Even if it's not your sport at first glance, try it out and you're going to realize that it is a physically demanding sport. It is very fun to be able to think with your head a lot and think through all your actions, and you are going to have a very good time sailing.